So, what is really happening in that silent moment right after you press the power button on your computer? I mean, it feels like absolutely nothing, but it's actually one of the most critical parts of its entire day. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at your computer's secret morning routine, the Power On self-test.
You probably never even thought about it, right? It just seems like silence. But really, it's one of the busiest, most frantic moments for your machine. It's running this lightning-fast diagnostic check, and by the end of this explainer, you'll know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So let's get into it.
All right, so the best way to think about this whole secret startup sequence is to imagine it's a pre-flight checklist for your computer's daily journey. Let's take a look at what this thing is officially called.
It's called the Power On self-test, or POST for short. This isn't some fancy software you install. It's a fundamental program that's literally baked right into your computer's firmware. Its one and only job is to ask a series of really simple but crucial questions. Is the brain working? Is the memory there? Can we actually see anything? You know, it's the foundation that everything else gets built on.
And this analogy? It's just perfect. Seriously. Just like a pilot runs through a checklist to make sure the engines are good and the controls are working before even thinking about taking off, your computer's POST makes sure its own core systems are ready for action. So, Section 2, the Core Awakening. The very first part of this checklist is all about waking up the absolute core of the machine, its brain. You have to love how logical the sequence is here. First, the CPU, the computer's brain, wakes up and immediately checks its most basic instructions, the BIOS. Okay, once the brain confirms it's online, it reaches out to the memory, the RAM, just to make sure it has a place to work. And then finally, it fires up the video card, so it has a way to talk to you if anything goes wrong. You see, each step just enables the next one. It's a chain reaction.
Okay, with those core systems awake and verified, the POST starts to expand its search. It's almost like the computer has just opened its eyes and is now taking a full inventory of all its limbs and all its senses.
The scan kicks off internally. It checks the keyboard controller, so you can actually type, and the system timers that keep everything running in sync. It also checks these super important components like the DMA and interrupt controllers. Just think of these as the system's internal traffic cops, directing the flow of data around so the main processor doesn't have to micromanage every little thing. So after that internal checkup, the POST starts looking outward. It scans the main data highways, the buses, like PCI and USB, to find everything that's plugged in, your graphics card, your mouse, any external drives, and finally, it locates the storage drives, and that's the big moment. It finds out where your operating system actually lives.
We've now reached the final moment of the Power On self-test. The inventory is complete, all the checks are done, and now it's time for the final verdict.
At this point, there are really only two ways this can go. Path 1. If everything checks out, the POST hands everything over to the bootloader, and that's when you see your familiar Windows or Apple logo pop up. But if a critical component, like your memory, fails its test, the entire process just stops dead in its tracks.
But wait a minute, how does it tell you what's wrong if the screen isn't even working yet? Well, this is where those mysterious beeps come from. A computer that won't turn on and just beeps at you isn't just making random noises, it's actually speaking a language. A specific sequence of beeps, a beep code, corresponds to a very specific hardware failure, telling a technician exactly what's wrong. It's basically the computer's last-ditch effort to cry for help.
So the next time you power on your computer, just listen to that brief, quiet moment. It's not really silence, it's the sound of this incredibly complex diagnostic dance, a little unsung hero making sure your machine is ready for flight before it hands the controls over to you. Thanks for joining us.